As communist revolts broke out all around Europe, it made a fear go around the world, and even here in the United States. What has become the Red Scare has spread all around the country, creating issues for immigrants and citizens alike. Revolutionary activity abroad and labor strikes across the U.S. after World War I led to the first Red Scare, which is also known as a wave of widespread fear of suspected communists and radicals throughout, planning a revolution in the U.S. Authorities discovered bombs mailed to important individuals and government officials like Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer. Suspected anarchists, members of a radical political movement, exploded bombs across the U.S., and even a bomb killed 40 in Wall Street. Leading the law enforcement, Palmer held broad offensives against radicals in the 1920s. These Palmer raids were where police arrested a lot of immigrants and a lot of innocent people and quickly deported them without a fair trial because of the suspect that they were communists or against capitalism. As most were never tried or charged for crimes, hundreds were deported. Many people were angry at the liberties being taken away, so the American Civil Liberties Union, or ACLU, was created to protect these liberties. In a special case, Nicola Sacco and Bartolomeo Vanzetti, two Italians, were anarchists.
Thank you, Jose, about your discussion about the Harlem Renaissance and the Red Scare. Now we'll be taking it to Adam, who will be discussing with us about prohibition and organized crime.
Thank you. I'm here to talk about organized crime and prohibition. In 1919, the states ratified the 18th Amendment that forbade the sale and production of alcohol anywhere in the U.S. Many progressives felt this was the most important move of the progressive movement. Many American citizens did not follow this act until the Volstead Act was passed that officially enforced the 18th Amendment. Dries were given to the name of advocates of prohibition of alcohol, and opponents of prohibition were given the nickname wets. Wets said that the effect had no ban on what the American citizens actually did and only increased organized crime. These crime leaders who sold alcohol legally were known as bootleggers, and they made a huge living and large profits off the illegal sale of alcohol. They worked in secret drinking establishments in the cities known as speakeasies. Probably the most famous organized crime leader of the era was Chicago's gangster Al Capone. Al Capone ran a multi-million-dollar industry with his organized crime, and he made millions off of it. The most remembered incident that Al Capone was in was his St. Valentine's Day massacre. Although he was never convicted of it, it is said that he issued the assassination of several of his rival gangsters. Gangsters like Capone often forbade the law and even bribed government officials to get away with their work. Other gangsters include bootlegger Machine Gun Kelly and bank robber Pretty Boy Floyd. Unfortunately, with organized crime came more violence and a higher unemployment. Also, the quality of the alcohol that was produced was not very good, and people often got sick from it. After 13 years, the government abolished the 18th Amendment with the 21st Amendment, and the illegal sale of alcohol was no more. Now back to you guys in the studio. Here are some examples like the mob. Here's when the jury finally convicted Capone in later years. This is Dries spilling out alcohol into the streets. And here's a picture of Al Capone, the most famous gangster.
Thanks, Adam. Now we'll take it to Drew, who will be discussing with us about the 1920 sports at the Yankee Stadium.
Thanks, Oliver. Here I am discussing the increase of sports in the 1920s and how it changed America throughout the decade. We're at the home of the leading home run king of the 1920s in baseball, which was Babe Ruth. Other popular athletes included Red Grange in football, Jack Dempsey in boxing, Bobby Jones in golf, Bill Tilden in tennis. Women's star athletes included tennis player Helen Wills, as well as the first woman to swim the English Channel, Gertrude Ederle. The golden age of sports was also the golden age of sports writing. Because of an increased amount of newspaper readership and the rise of radio coverage, major sports were able to boast nationally famous performers. Journalists such as Damon Runyon and Grantland Rice captured the excitement of the sporting events, which turned some of the finest athletes into seemingly immortal gods. Sports writers used nicknames to popularize the players, such as calling Babe Ruth the Sultan of SWAT. This decade was in need of heroes, and sports was the reason to aid in doing that. World War I caused many Americans to feel as if the world was cheap and flawed. Athletes accomplished the reassurance of Americans that gave people the capability of great feats and lofty dreams. The sports heroes of the 1920s gave Americans a new sense of hope and identity. Also, in the air, Charles Lindbergh was able to become the first person to fly across the Atlantic Ocean while riding alone and not stopping at all. He was able to accomplish this feat in 1927. Here are a few of the sports legends from the 1920s. And that's all for sports from the 1920s decade. Back to you.
Next, we'll go into the field with Adam, who then has the topics about 1920s fashion.
Fashion of the 1920s all depended on what activities the individual was doing and at what time of day they were doing. In the 1920s, individuals often changed their outfit many times each day to match different activities they were doing so they could feel most comfortable. Each type of clothing in the era of the 1920s seemed to have some type of specific guideline. Let's take a look at some of them. Men in the upper middle class often wore suits to work, and the quality of their suit showed off their wealth. So more wealthy people wore nicer suits that cost more money. However, outside of work, most men dressed in casual sporting clothes as they casually hung out around their house during the day. Probably the most famous outfit of the 1920s was that of the gangsters or bootleggers. They wore a black three-piece suit, which symbolized their wealth that they had mischievously gained. With these suits, often people wore popular shoes known as Oxfords that came around in the 1920s. Also, for men, a walking cane or a rolled-up umbrella suggested old money, which is the most prominent type of money in the 1920s, as these individuals were looked up to the most. Working class men were often very dirty and wore canvas overalls. Women in the 1920s expressed a new form of fashion as the flappers came around. The flappers cut their hair shorter and wore shorter dresses. They often wore large jewelry and large hats. This symbolized the newfound freedom that women experienced in the 1920s as they pushed in the progressive movement. More well-off women took part in tea socials or afternoon tea parties. At these socials, they dressed in extravagant, light, bright outfits that demonstrated their wealth. Rich men and women often took part in large parties also. At these parties, men wore extravagant, expensive tuxedos and women wore eloquent, long dresses. These also showed off their wealth in the 1920s. As you can see here, here's a man in a suit and a woman in a dress that would most likely be going to an extravagant party. Thank you. Now back to you in the studio.
For our final topic, we'll be talking about the Scopes trial. The Scopes trials of 1925 was an issue that was on the theory of evolution, introduced by the English scientist Charles Darwin. Darwin believed that complex forms of life, such as human beings, had developed gradually from simpler forms of life. According to fundamentalists, this theory contradicts with the description of the creation in their Bible. In addition, Tennessee enacted a law making it illegal to teach Darwin's theory of the states in the state's public schools. However, a Dayton, Tennessee school teacher, John Scopes, taught evolution in his classroom. As a result, he was arrested. The Scopes trial was a controversial speculation within the nation. Clarence Darrow, a modernist, was a defense attorney who defended Scopes. Well known for his defending of labor union leaders, he was a very talented speaker. He used science to cast doubt on biblical beliefs. William Jennings Bryan was a fundamentalist, three-time presidential candidate, known for defending traditional rural values. He affirmed the literal truth of divine creation found in the Bible, and he stated, "I accept the Bible absolutely." Clarence Darrow and William Jennings Bryan clashed over evolution. The trial itself showcased some major cultural and religious division, a public battle between fundamentalism and modernism. Fundamentalism emphasized Protestant teachings and the belief that every word in the Christian Bible was literal truth. Fundamentalists believed that the answer to every important moral and scientific question could be found in the Bible. Ideas were strong in rural America. Modernism was an emphasis on urbanism, intellectualism, and individualism. It threatened traditionalists who believed America's social foundations were deteriorating. It was also a trend of secular values over traditional religious beliefs. Right here is a political cartoon of the Scopes trials. It was also nicknamed the Monkey Trials because of the evolution, because Charles Darwin believed that humans were derived from monkeys. And this is a picture of William Jennings Bryan and Clarence Darrow during the Scopes trial. Back to you at the studio.
And thank you all for watching our 20s recap here on Channel 1 News. You all have a blessed day.